data sourcing. For this project, our team collected Premier League performance and financial data across the last 10 seasons, from 2015-16 to 2024-25. League table data, including points, goals scored, and goals conceded, was sourced from FBref. Annual wage bill data was sourced from Deloitte reports, while transfer expenditure, transfer income, and net transfer spend data were collected from Transfermarkt. Using multiple trusted data sources allowed us to build a broad data set that combined both financial and on-pitch performance variables for analysis.
Cleaning and preparing. Before analysis could begin, the raw data required significant cleaning and preparation. First, club names and season formats were standardized to ensure consistency across all datasets. Duplicate naming variations were also removed. Financial values were then cleaned by removing symbols and commas before converting them into numerical format. Values were also rounded to improve readability and consistency. Missing values and XLOOKUP mismatches were identified and corrected, while anomalies and blank cells were manually checked throughout the process. Finally, all datasets were merged together into one master dataset for analysis. Analytical techniques and tools. Microsoft Excel was used throughout the project for data cleaning, analysis, and dashboard creation. Pivot tables were used to summarize large datasets, compare clubs across seasons, and calculate averages efficiently. Scatter plots were created to analyze relationships between spending and performance, particularly wage bill versus league points. Trend lines and R-squared values were also used to measure the strength of correlations. An efficiency bar chart was developed to compare club spending and performance levels, helping identify clubs achieving strong results despite lower expenditure. Finally, an interactive dashboard was created using slices, filters, and KPI indicators to make the visuals easier to understand, compare, and explore. Overall, analytical methods used in this project were effective for identifying relationships between financial spending and Premier League performances across multiple seasons. The use of visualizations and dashboards also made the findings easier to interpret and compare.
Insights and analysis. To understand whether the wage bill has an influence on club performance, a scatter plot was created to show the relationship between the two variables. The x-axis represents the wage bill, whilst the y-axis shows the points the clubs have gained. It can be interpreted as clubs with a higher wage bill being positioned closer to the right side of the scatter plot, and the ones that are higher up the plot have stronger performance. From the results, we can see a positive correlation with performance increasing while the bill increases. This is confirmed through the regression line being pointed upwards. As well as that, the cluster of points closer to that line suggests that wage bill has a strong influence on club performance, as there are more points spread closer to the line rather than further away. However, from the remaining points which are further away from the line, we can assume that the reasoning is other factors like the quality of training, the management style, or the team. Overall, investing a higher amount does not mean the club will perform extremely well, so the league should also consider strategic planning and management. Alongside that, clubs with a higher wage bill might be performing slightly better because they are able to spend more on recruiting the best players, which would essentially lead performance. However, since there are still clubs with lower wage bills achieving strong results too, it could mean their strategy is better when it comes to using what they already have. Another scatter plot was created to visualize the relationship between net transfer spending and club performance. This time the data shows a very weak correlation through the R value presenting a 0.0211, which can also be interpreted as only 2% of net transfer spending being a reason for how the league performs. This means that more money spent on transfers does not automatically mean more success. This is also supported by the regression line being slightly downwards, representing the weak relationship between both variables. This again means that other factors have a greater influence on performance. Overall, clubs with much lower spending have achieved more points than ones with higher transfer budgets in general. This could indicate that instead of focusing financially, the clubs could achieve better results by improving their management style or their resources. These are significant findings for the consultancy because these results show how effective high wage bills and high transfer spending is for clubs.
Hello, my name's Adam. My role in this project is to translate our analytical findings into clear, actionable decisions for Premier League clubs. Our analysis shows that financial investment does matter, but not in the way many clubs and many people often assume. Wage spending has a meaningful relationship with performance, while transfer spending shows almost no correlation at all. We also identified that several clubs consistently outperform their financial power, proving that efficiency and long-term strategy can outweigh raw spending. Based on these insights, we've developed a set of strategic recommendations designed to help clubs improve performance, reduce waste, and build sustainable competitive advantage. Our first recommendation is that clubs should prioritise wage structure optimization over transfer spending. The wage to points relationship in our dashboard shows a moderate but meaningful connection, whereas transfer spending has almost no predictive value. This means clubs don't need to chase expensive signings, they need to invest more intelligently in the players that they already have. A stable and well-structured wage system supports squad cohesion, reduces financial volatility, and delivers more consistent performance. Our efficiency analysis also shows that several clubs outperform richer rivals by focusing on coaching quality, data-driven recruitment, and youth development. These efficiency-focused models offer a sustainable competitive advantage without escalating costs. Our next major recommendation is for clubs to benchmark themselves using expected points based on wage spend. The trend line in our analysis clearly shows which clubs are outperforming expectations and which are overspending for limited returns. This gives clubs a diagnostic tool to understand whether they have a spending problem or a performance problem. We also highlighted the widening financial gap between the top six and the rest of the league. For non-elite clubs, trying to match this spending is unrealistic and risky. Instead, they should focus more on sustainable squad building, youth development, and analytics-led scouting. Overall, our analysis shows that long-term planning beats short-term spending. The clubs that succeed are not the ones who spend the most, they are the ones who spend the smartest. Winning comes from spending smart and not spending more.
As the ethical reviewer for this project, I focused on the reliability, quality, and responsible interpretation of the data used in our analysis. Firstly, it is important to recognise that football finance data from public sources may not always be perfectly accurate. Transfer fees, wage bills, and revenue figures can sometimes differ slightly between sources because some values are estimated or updated at different times. Because of this, our team cross-checked information where possible and used consistent data sets throughout the analysis. In terms of data quality, we carried out several cleaning and standardization processes before beginning the analysis. For example, club names and season formats were standardized to ensure consistency through datasets. We also manually reviewed missing values, duplicate entries, and inconsistencies to improve the reliability of our results. Another important ethical consideration is responsible interpretation of the findings. Although our analysis showed a relationship between higher spending and improved league performance, correlation does not necessarily imply causation. Football success is influenced by many additional factors beyond financial expenditure, including coaching quality, injuries, recruitment strategy, player development, and just the overall club management. Therefore, our conclusions should be interpreted as indicators of broader trends rather than the definitive proof that spending alone guarantees success. Finally, all data used in this project was publicly available and collected for our educational purposes only. No confidential or personal player information was accessed or analysed during the project. So, in conclusion, our analysis found that there is generally a positive relationship between financial spending and on-pitch success in the Premier League. Clubs with higher wage bills and greater transfer spending often achieve stronger league performances. However, the analysis also identified clubs that consistently outperform financially stronger teams through more efficient recruitment strategies, effective management, and smarter use of resources. We also found evidence that the financial gap between the top clubs and the rest of the league has widened since 2015, creating increasing competitive imbalance within the Premier League.